Texas, we thank you so much for keeping it here with us for your election night coverage right here on Spectrum News 1.
Yeah, bottom of the hour now, and polls are still open for your last chance to vote in the primary election.
In the last half hour, we have tracked some Senate and some congressional races and the top offices in the state as well. So now we want to turn our attention to another high-profile race this election season. That is for Texas's top attorney.
Yeah, current Attorney General Kit Paxton is vying for a seat in the U.S. Senate, and there is a lot of competition to take his spot.
A lot. And that is why we've got our Blessing Iwuchukwu with us in studio for a closer look. Blessing, there's a lot to unpack here.
Absolutely, Dr. Clark and Charles. A lot. We're talking seven candidates, 4 on the Republican side, 3 on the Democratic side. Now let's talk about the Democrats for now. If a Democrat is able to become Texas Attorney General, it's going to be historic, y'all. This hasn't happened in more than 3 decades. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the candidates we're talking about. So with the Texas polling project, the data that we talked about last night, it has, we're talking about the Republicans right now. Okay, so we're talking about the Republicans, and in the polling, it showed that U.S. Congressman Chip Roy, he's leading in the poll right now. And it's funny, you know, like some of the candidates, they're having their watch parties, but not Congressman Chip Roy. He's actually in D.C. right now, and he's casting votes because, like I said, he is a congressman. And in that polling, that data, we also have State Senator Mays Middleton. He's coming in second. He's having a private watch party right now with his family in Austin. And third in that polling is Joan Huffman, also state senator. And then Aaron Wrights, even though he got the blessing of the current Texas Attorney General, according to the polling results, it's not doing so well for him right now, and he's actually based in North Texas. So the Democrats that I was talking to you about, there are 3 of them, and we actually caught up with some of them earlier. Let's hear from them right now.
We feel very confident that we're up, and we're up significantly. There've been a number of polls. We have some polls. I have objective indicia that we're up and that we're going to be up further. There are polls out there that show Joe Jaworski up. Those are malpractice. They're terrible polls. They're scientifically wildly unsound.
Are you surprised by those polling numbers?
Well, I mean, if I'm Nathan Johnson, that's what I'd say. I'm sure he was deeply hurt by those numbers. But if he's got some, better polling, good for him.
All right, so we heard there from some Democratic candidates, and you spoke earlier about some Republican candidates. What more can you tell us about this heated race?
All right, so it's, like I said, it's pretty heated right now. All of them are having their various watch parties. Like Tony Box, he's also running for on the Democratic side. And what's interesting actually for both sides, on the Republican and the Democratic side, one on each side, they haven't been elected. We're talking about Aaron Wrights. He's never had an elected position, and also Tony Box. They're both veterans, but they believe that even though without that having that title, like their other contenders, like their other candidates, they feel like that could be the difference maker. So we're going to see, and even that polling, that data, it also says we could actually expect a runoff. So it's going to be interesting to see what the results show and how, it all shapes out later tonight.
Yeah, we will see how it shapes out. Blessing, I know you're going to continue to monitor this for us, and we'll have you back later throughout the night.
All right, thank you.
All right, turning back now.
The night. But now we move on to another high-profile race this election season, and that is for Texas Attorney General.
Yeah, current Attorney General Kit Paxton is vying for a seat in the U.S. Senate, and there's a lot of competition to take his spot.
A lot indeed. That's why we've got our Blessing Iwuchukwu here with us in studio for a closer look. Blessing, you've been tracking this. We have some early numbers starting to come in. What's the latest in this race?
Okay, so James talked about it a little bit in the last hit, and I was kind of surprised to see some of those early voting numbers because we've been talking about the polling. It's been, U.S. Congressman Chip Roy. He has the high name recognition, and out of the 4 Republicans who are running, Mays Middleton, State Senator Mays Middleton, actually has the least experience when it comes to the legal background, even though he is an attorney for their oil and gas company that he owns. He's actually polling pretty good right now. And as we talked about, these are just early voting numbers right now. And surprisingly, out of the 4, the current Texas Attorney General, he gave his blessing to Aaron Wrights. But so far, as we're seeing with these early voting numbers, it's not looking too good so far for him. Now let's move on to the Democrats. There are 3 Democrats who are running, who want to make history, because if one of them is somehow able to unseat a Republican, This will be the first time in more than 3 decades. Now let's take a look at the Democrats. Earlier, we're talking about the polling numbers where it actually had Joe Jaworski polling pretty high, but with the early voting numbers that we're seeing right now, it actually shows State Senator Nathan Johnson is actually leading in the polls, and he's having a watch party right now here in Austin. Out of all the 7 candidates that we've been covering, he's the one that's here in Austin. Mays Middleton, he's having a watch party privately with his family here as well, and the other 2 candidates, George Jaworski, he's in Houston. He's having a private watch party as well with his family, and his experience is not really statewide. He was, the mayor of Galveston. He helped the city during the hurricane, and he was also sat on city council, but he doesn't have any state experience.
He's an attorney as well, though.
Exactly. He's an attorney as well, owns his own law firm. And Tony Box, also a partner here in Dallas, over there in Dallas, and he's also a veteran, but he has never been elected.
Got it.
Okay. All right, back to y'all.
Thanks.
And bring in our Blessing Uchuka joining us again on the desk, talking all things Texas Attorney General's race. What you have for us right now?
All right, Charles and Dr. Clark, like Lauren and Andrea said, almost all of Texas has finished voting. We know what's happening there in Dallas County. So let's take a look at the numbers. We talked a little bit about it at the 7:30 hour. So we're going to take a look at the latest numbers coming up for the Republicans that are running for Texas Attorney General. Now, this is pretty surprising. We've been talking, for some time now with the early with the polling and with what likely voters were thinking and wanting, and who would think they would be their likely candidate was U.S. Congressman Chip Roy, but we're seeing now that is State Senator Mays Middleton. He's here in Austin, and out of the 4 candidates who are running to be the next Texas Attorney General, he has the least amount of experience. The only person who has received the current blessing, the endorsement from the current Texas Attorney General is Aaron Wright. And as we see, he's in the 3rd right now, kind of tied a little bit with State Senator Joan Huffman. And we know U.S. Congressman Chip Roy, he had the most name recognition out there. He also served under Ken Paxton, but he did not get that endorsement from him. And it's interesting that we're seeing, these numbers right now. Even Chip Roy, he's actually in D.C. right now, while the rest of the other candidates are here in Texas. Aaron Wright, he's in North Texas. Mays Middleton, he's having a private watch party at home with his family and his campaign manager. Now let's take a look at the Democrats. Earlier we spoke with, we're seeing the U.S. Senate race right now, but earlier we spoke with State Senator Nathan Johnson. We met up with him earlier this afternoon as he was meeting with people at the polling location right now. He is at his watch party that he's having here in Austin. Interesting enough, we were talking about earlier with this early polling from likely voters, they were actually saying Joe Jaworski of Galveston was who they wanted. He had more than half of the percentage votes, but now we're seeing with the early voting numbers, it's actually State Senator Nathan Johnson. And when we talked to him earlier at the polling location, he was saying these polling numbers that said Joe Jaworski was in the lead was actually incorrect, and he might be seeing some vindication right now with those early polling numbers that shows him overwhelmingly in the lead so far. And we actually caught up with him. I don't know if we have that soundbite at his, we have that soundbite right now. We're going to toss to that soundbite of him talking about, I am in the lead. I told y'all, believe me, take a look.
This is what I hoped. This was what our internal polling suggested. We had polling. I had some fairly objective. It's polling after all. That said this would be the result, that if we got our message out, people would vote for us. I told you earlier today, I thought the polling that showed Joe Jaworski up was upside down. It was off by 40 points.
We could see some vindication. He talked that talk. Now let's take a look at the numbers. He is close to that 50% threshold, over surpassing the person that we thought would be winning so far with the leads of Joe Jaworski and Anthony Box. Interesting enough, Anthony Box, he has never held elected position. He's an attorney, a partner at a Dallas law firm, and he's also a veteran. He's having his watch party as well in Dallas. Joe Jaworski, he's having his private watch party with his family right now. He's out of Houston right now. And so I also talked to him earlier this afternoon about, the polling numbers, and he believes that he will be the man for the job. And interesting enough, this isn't his first rodeo at this. He gave it a shot back in 2022. But he wasn't as successful so far, and we might see a repetition based on the early voting numbers. He thought that this year would be different because he believes he was a standout candidate. He had experience in doing this, and doing this a second time around only against these 3 candidates. He thought he would be victorious, but those numbers may paint a different picture, y'all.
Yeah,
So
we've got the early vote numbers coming in still at this time, but yeah, it's interesting to see where things are stacking up at this hour.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
from polls to early voting to
Right.
the last ballot, that really matters.
That's right.
All right, thanks, Blessing.
Thank
We'll talk to
Thank you.
again.
All right, taking a moment now to
We want to switch gears now and go to Texas Attorney General's race. For that, we've got our Blessing Iwuchukwu and our political anchor, James Bardagon, joining us at the desk to talk about this. There's a lot to talk about with this race, guys. Let's start with you, Blessing.
All right, so first, just like James spoke about earlier, we already know that there's going to be a runoff for the Republicans. It's MAGA Mays Middleton is what he calls himself to show that he is Trump's supported, Trump backed, and we have Congressman Chip Roy, who is in D.C. currently, and State Senator Mays Middleton, he had a small watch party with his family, a private watch party. So that was really interesting because, as we talked about earlier, all night long, we all thought it was going to be State Senator or U.S. Congressman Chip Roy with the name recognition, and it was kind of the complete opposite. Like the Democrats, that still hasn't been called yet. So we're still waiting to see whether that's going to be a runoff or if it's just going to be State Senator Nathan Johnson.
Yeah, and there was a stark contrast between, Mays Middleton, strong MAGA supporter, and Chip Roy. So many ads about him, how he went against Trump, how he, went against his party, that it was very contentious between the two of them.
Yeah. And a lot of that spending came from Senator Middleton. Of course, he, again, self-funded much of his campaign, committed to spending $10 million in these markets, and it looked like it worked. But Blessing, to your point on the Democratic side, we were just looking at the numbers. It doesn't look like they have called that yet. It looks like State Senator Nathan Johnson is in the lead, but he's right on the cusp.
Yeah,
we can see it on there. 48%. It'll be interesting to see if he can get to that 50% plus a little bit over threshold. But the other interesting thing, Blessing, is he's from Dallas.
Yeah,
that's his base. So what role does all of these troubles that we're seeing play in him being just right off the mark there?
Yeah, and even talking about that, we actually were at his watch party. He is representing North Dallas, North Texas, but he's having his watch party here in Austin, and it had a good turnout. We actually attended his watch party, spoke to him earlier, and here's what he had to say about the results and how he's feeling pretty hopeful to not be in a runoff. Take a listen.
I'm very happy that we're close to 50%. I'm still hoping that we crack the 50% margin before this night is over. But I'm really excited about the results, and I'm ready to get to tomorrow and hopefully get started on beating the Republicans in November.
And when I spoke with him earlier, about a month or so earlier, as he was getting ready to debate Joe Jaworski, he believes that not only is he going to be the Democratic candidate tonight, tomorrow, he believes he's going to be the winner. He believes he's going to make history. As we've talked about that there hasn't been a Texas Democratic Attorney General in more than 3 decades, and he believes he's going to be that difference maker. He feels pretty confident.
One thing I did notice is the third, fourth place, they pulled quite a bit of numbers to push this to a runoff on both sides of these things. Is that something that was predicted, or?
Yeah, actually, I spoke with Nathan Johnson about that because when he told me that when I brought up Tony Box, he was saying that he believes he ran to take votes from him because he was saying that he's not a serious candidate.
And he's also from Dallas.
He's also a Dallas attorney, is a partner at a law firm, a veteran, and he believes that Tony Box running was to take away votes from him. And we saw a lot of people did vote for that veteran.
And he got some big newspaper endorsements, I want to say, Tony Box, which kind of was surprising because it's his first time really running for political office.
Yeah, he's never held any elected position whatsoever, but he was an FBI agent. He has a lot of military background. He served, in the military, and so, but it's very interesting to see he had more than 100,000 votes.
If we can, let's talk about Tony Box a little bit more, if we can pull up the numbers, because I think at this point we're also looking at potentially the runoff and who's going to be in that runoff. Now, we know these names, Nathan Johnson, Joe Joe Jaworski because Jaworski had previously run, right? Blessing?
Yes, in 2022.
But Jaworski, this is kind of surprising to me. He's polling at 27%. He's in second place, but Tony Box is right
Not
on
far
his
behind.
tail.
I know.
27 to 24%. And that, I mean, Tony Box also from Dallas, so who knows what role the Dallas voting problems, voting issues have, if there's maybe more there. That is very interesting to me that is, it's that tight for second place.
Okay, so I want to go back to the fact that Nathan Johnson believes that he will win, tonight and then win the general election. I'm curious, James, what that would say if for the first time in 30 plus years we have a Democrat in a statewide position.
It would be massive. It would be massive. It's a political earthquake. You've talked about it, Blessing. It's been 30 years,
Yes,
more than 30 years since it happened. So it would be a political earthquake. And I've actually talked to Nathan Johnson as well about that, and he has sort of thought about what he can do and what he can't do if he does end up being the nominee and eventually wins. He's really thought it through a lot. But Democrats feel really good. It's not just in this race, the other race that we've been talking about, the Senate race with Tallarico and Crockett. I mean, the reason why these young rising stars have taken this shot is because they feel like with a midterm, with the political backlash against the party in power, which is what usually happens in midterms, they feel like they've got probably their best shot in a long time to actually win a statewide seat. But for Nathan Johnson, even if he was the only one, it would be earth-shattering.
It would
really.
send a major message about the state of affairs in the Lone Star State.
Long way to go till then, but of course it would be earth-shattering.
It's a talking point for sure.
And he believes he's going to make that. And because when I did speak with him earlier, I was like, why do you think you will be the person that is picked? And he says that Texans, they're not happy with the current administration, and he believes that this will be that clapback for them to turn to that blue wave that a lot of Democrats are expecting to happen in this primary.
Clapback. Okay, we'll see. Well, first we got to see if he makes it. What happens
If he hits that 50,
He's got to get over the threshold first.
tonight first.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, thanks, guys.
Our live coverage of the primary election continues all night long.
We thank you for keeping it here with us for your election night coverage right here on Spectrum News 1.
Yeah, bottom of the hour now, and polls are now closed for the primary election outside of some interesting counties that have been experiencing some issues. But we do want to turn to the Texas Attorney General's race with our Blessing Uchuku and James Barragan to break down what has been an eventful night in that race.
Any surprises tonight, Blessing?
I feel like what we've been talking about all night was definitely for the Republicans. I mean, I felt we talked about Congressman Chip Roy was going to be a shoo-in, and so far I've been checking in on their social media and their camp. No statement yet for Chip Roy's camp. They say that they're going to release a statement tomorrow. And surprisingly, nothing from Mays Middleton. I've checked his social media, reached out to his camp. Nothing yet for him of the results that they're going to be in the runoff.
Check 3, 2.
Well, I think we knew that the Congressman Chip Roy and Mays Middleton were probably going to be 1 and 2 based on the polling that we've seen. We just didn't expect them to be switched, and Mays Middleton was going to be at the top. I think this is a strong showing for Senator Middleton because there's a lot of big names in this race. I mean, State Senator Joan Huffman, she's been around the legislature forever. Aaron Wright's got a big endorsement from Ken Paxton, the guy who's leaving that office. And we all thought Chip Roy was going to be close to that 50%. On our show, we were talking about whether Chip Roy was going to get out of this thing flat out tonight. But we see Mays Middleton is leading him by 9 points tonight. That's a strong showing.
And that's even after some very strong campaigning and very strong ads against him.
And when I spoke with Congressman Chip Roy about the possibility of a runoff a month or two ago, and he did not think that there would be, and he's like, Texans should not be wasting their money. We should not be wasting tax dollars on this. They should just go out all right for that candidate, and looks like Texas voters.
And he said this on my show when he came on. He said there's a possibility that we could get out of the runoff, but I have to go work in Congress and be in DC. I'm still a congressman. Sort of gave that caveat. That was sort of the first indication for me that maybe he didn't quite have it in the the bag. And the other thing that you said, Blessing, earlier, which is that his party, his election night party, is in D.C. As my executive producer likes to say, you usually want to have a nice big party if you feel confident. Right. That should have been maybe an indication for us that he wasn't as confident as we maybe would have thought.
Yeah, he actually had to be in D.C. because he is, working currently and still casting votes. But his camp is saying that they're actually here in Central Texas. They're doing their little private watch party with his camp currently. But I'm sure they're in bed right now at this hour.
Some of us might want to
make the right choice.
But what you're interesting, you're talking about that we have our runoff set, but the Democratic race, that's still up in the air. Even though as we're looking at the numbers right here, State Senator Nathan Johnson still very close, but I don't think it's moved the needle from the last hour when we were talking about these numbers. He's still at the cusp of that 50-49.
He's at that cusp, and then again, looking at the 2 and 3, Joe Jaworski and Anthony Box, they're duking it out to possibly see who's gonna be in that runoff. I don't think that one has moved either from 27 to 24. But again, we have to remind viewers: Anthony Box, Nathan Johnson, both from the Dallas area. Right. So those issues that we've seen in Dallas County may play a role. There's going to be all kinds of lawyers saying which ballots are going to count. They're going to go all out because they want to. For Nathan Johnson, he wants to get out of this thing clean tonight. Right. And for Anthony Box and for Joe Jaworski, they'll want to count every single ballot that goes for them and not the ones that go for the other guys.
That's why there's still so many questions on this Democratic side, because like you said, Nathan Johnson could pass that threshold. He's very close to it, but maybe not. And if he doesn't, we still are not sure, because it's so close, who he would be in a runoff with.
Yeah, and interesting that you said that. We actually we spoke with him at his watch party earlier that wrapped up a few hours ago of how he's confident of what the results will be. Let's take a listen.
I look forward to tomorrow morning waking up with 50% or 49.8 or something that makes it sure that I cannot wait. I don't care if it's Ms. Middleton or Chip Roy. I already got it figured out. We're beating them. We're beating them. We're ready.
Very confident there.
No uncertain terms.
Yeah, he believes he's going to be the man come November, maybe even come tonight, maybe tomorrow morning.
And maybe tomorrow.
Maybe, I know, right? So we'll see how this all shapes out, y'all.
Yep.
Yeah, well, thank you. Interesting races all night long, especially some of the bigger races.
One of the biggest surprises that we saw election night was the fact that Congressman Chip Roy, he thought he would be the outright candidate for the Republicans, but it turns out it was MAGA Mays Middleton, as he likes to call himself. And both of them, since they could not reach that 50% threshold, well, they're going to head to a runoff in about 2 months in May. Now, we reached out to Congressman Chip Roy for a statement or an interview. He's expecting to release one Wednesday, or sometime around Wednesday earlier today. And surprisingly, State Senator Middleton did not release a statement, was not available for an interview, no response at all from his camp, even though he had the highest percentage out of all of the 4 Republicans who are running for AG. Now, on to the Democrats, surprisingly as well. Polling numbers show that originally it's going to be Joe Jaworski of Galveston, but it turns out from the numbers that we saw, it was State Senator Nathan Johnson of Dallas. He represents the North Texas area, but he had his watch party here in Austin. And here's what he had to say for those results.
I cannot wait. I don't care if it's Ms. Middleton or Chip Roy. I already got it figured out. We're beating them. We're beating them. We're ready. We're ready.
So it's possible he may head to a runoff. As of Tuesday night, election night, the numbers stayed about the same for a couple of hours. They may change later on Wednesday, but that's all that we have for the Texas Attorney General's race. I'm Blessing Uchiku reporting here in Austin.